By the 1950s, tobacco executives knew their products caused cancer. They ran full-page ads in 400 newspapers denying it anyway. I want to talk about something that I think fundamentally changes how you look at the food on grocery store shelves, the cigarettes behind the register, and the chronic disease epidemic that is playing out across this country right now. Because once you understand the pattern, you can't unsee it. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is documented, court verified corporate behavior backed by 30 million pages of internal industry documents made public after a lawsuit settlement in 1998. And it has happened not once, but twice in the last century. First with tobacco, then with food. The tactics weren't just similar. In many cases, they were executed by the same consulting firms. Let me give you a specific moment that I think captures the entire story. In 1962, an internal report by R.J. Reynolds, scientist Dr. Alan Rodman described the evidence linking smoking to cancer as overwhelming and the evidence against it as scant. That is their own scientists in a private document telling them the truth. 2 years later, tobacco executives testified before Congress and claimed nicotine was not addictive. That gap between what they knew in private and what they said in public is the story. And it wasn't a one-time lapse. It was a strategy executed over decades with enormous financial resources behind it. The core of that strategy had four parts. First, fund your own science. When independent research started linking cigarettes to cancer, the industry didn't change the product. It created industry-sponsored research designed to produce doubt, not to win the scientific debate, just to prevent it from being settled. And as late as 1960, only one-third of all American doctors believed the case against cigarettes had been established. That confusion was manufactured. Second, capture the credibility of trusted institutions. Tobacco companies paid for doctor endorsements. They ran ads with physicians recommending cigarette brands. For an entire generation of smokers, the message was simple. If your doctor is comfortable with this, there's nothing to worry about. Third, lobby aggressively against any attempt to regulate. Fund the politicians who write the rules. Place allies in regulatory positions. Make sure every piece of legislation that threatens a product faces organized opposition before it ever reaches a vote. And fourth, target the people least equipped to fight back. One study of 30 US cities found nearly 5 times more tobacco retailers per square mile in the lowest income neighborhoods compared to the wealthiest. In 2020, the smoking rate among adults earning under $35,000 was 20.2%, compared to the national average of 12.5%. There was an internal marketing plan at R.J. Reynolds in the 1990s titled Project Scum, designed to target homeless and mentally ill people in San Francisco. That is the actual name, not a rumor. A named, documented plan. The demographics of who smokes in this country are not random. They are the measurable result of a targeting strategy executed over generations. I genuinely don't understand how someone who's seen the health class images, who may have lost someone to lung cancer, still lights a cigarette. Not as a judgment, as a real question I've sat with. The answer I keep coming back to is that the power of addiction, combined with decades of deliberate early exposure aimed at specific communities, is a force that has very little to do with willpower. The industry did not create weak people. It created a system engineered to produce behavior that serves its bottom line. I go deeper on this every 5 days. The full post is at evolutionofwellness.com. The link is in the description. Here's the part that should make you even more frustrated. While the tobacco lawsuits were playing out in the 1990s, the food industry had already been running a version of the same playbook for 30 years. In the 1960s, the Sugar Research Foundation, the trade group for the sugar industry, identified a problem. Research was starting to link sugar to heart disease. Their internal documents show exactly how they responded. A 1964 memo from the group's vice president proposed that the industry fund its own research to, and I'm quoting this directly, refute our detractors. So they paid Harvard scientists the equivalent of $50,000 in today's dollars to conduct a literature review. They selected the studies to be included. They received drafts. They set the objective. And the result was published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 1967 with no disclosure of the industry funding. Harvard scientists, the New England Journal, no disclosure required. The conclusion of that review pointed to fat and cholesterol as the dietary culprits of heart disease and minimized the role of sugar. That finding shaped federal dietary guidelines for decades. The low fat era, with all of its processed low fat products loaded with added sugar, did not emerge from neutral science. It emerged from a campaign to protect a product. And the same consulting firms that worked for Big Tobacco, including Exponent Inc., are now engaged by food industry clients to cast doubt on the health concerns associated with ultra processed foods. The internal documents and whistleblower reports that have surfaced show deliberate suppression of data linking ultra processed foods to obesity, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. Same tactics, different products. Different decade, same outcome. Here's the piece that I think matters most and gets talked about the least. Nobody chooses their childhood food environment. A child raised in a household where fast food is a default, where soda is a staple, where processed food is what fills the cupboards, doesn't experience any of that as a choice. It's just how things are. It becomes the baseline, and the baseline gets passed forward. The same is true for tobacco. Children who grow up around smoking normalize it before they have the capacity to question it. The industry understood this completely. Capturing a customer young, embedding a product into childhood is the most durable form of market penetration that exists. You don't need to keep advertising. You just need one generation to transmit the behavior to the next. That transmission is happening right now with food. The children eating ultra-processed food today are being shaped into the adults who will feed it to their children. Not out of malice, out of familiarity, out of convenience, out of an environment that was engineered to make it the easiest option at every turn. And that environment, like the tobacco retail environment, isn't distributed equally. The saturation of fast food, of convenience stores, of ultra-processed options is heaviest in the communities with the fewest alternatives and the least political power to demand something different. I want to end with something practical because I don't want this to just be a history lesson that leaves you feeling angry and stuck. Understanding the system doesn't remove personal responsibility. It clarifies what that responsibility is actually up against. Breaking the cycle in your own home is the most direct intervention available to most people. What your children grow up experiencing as normal is what they carry forward, not smoking around them, not normalizing soda as a daily drink, not making fast food the default answer to convenience. These aren't perfect standards, they're directions. Recognizing engineered products for what they are changes how you interact with them. Ultra processed food and tobacco are not neutral goods. They're products designed by well funded professionals to maximize consumption at the expense of health. That framing is not paranoia, it's the rational response to documented history. And using tools like evidence check when you come across health and nutrition claims is something you could do right now. The pattern of manufactured science is ongoing. The ability to check it against peer-reviewed research exists. Evidencecheck.io. It's free. The industry knew what it was doing. It made a calculation that profit was worth more than people. That calculation has been repeated, refined, and applied to new products with the same results. The question is not whether the system is rigged. The documents prove that it is. The question is, what do you decide to do with that information? They buried what they knew and built industries on top of it. The least you can do is know exactly what they knew. If this is useful, subscribe for more. I post new content every week. The full breakdown is on my blog at evolutionofwellness.com and on my Substack. Both links are in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.